This is a short guide on how to do simple table filtering in Tablexplore. So to start with, I'm going to bring up a simple sample data set with 20 rows, and we'll have 10 columns. So we'll remove our plot widget here because we don't need it, and zoom in just to have a clearer look. So this table is 20 rows. It has 10 columns plus this categorical one, and to do filtering on this, I'm going to go to the toolbar and press the filter button, and this brings up a dialog on the bottom, and we can either do string filtering, which I'll go back to in a minute, or the more simple use of dialogs or widgets. And to add a filter, I press the add button. That brings up a new row of widgets on the bottom of the dialog here that allows us to specify which filter we want. So say I want to select all rows where A is greater than the value 5, and I enter the values here. I choose the operator here, and then I press filter, and that gives me actually 19 rows. So it's only removed one. Say I say greater than 6, now we have 10 rows, and you can see all these values. Now say I add another filter to do something a bit more complex. The new row appears here in the bottom, at the top, above the previous filter. I say B should be less than 6, and you can see there's a logical operator that at the start of each filter that allows us to chain them together. So in this case we're saying B is less than 6 and A is greater than 6, and if I apply that, we only 4 rows left. If I change this to OR and I apply the filter, that's actually the entire table. And now I'll add one more filter. I'm going to select rows where label is equal to red. I'm just checking if there's any. I don't think that will give us anything, so there's no result there. Let's try blue. There's one row. So you get the idea from that. I can remove this filter, apply again. We have our 4 rows from the previous result. We can take this filter, filter table, and press this button here in the bottom, and that will copy the result to a new table, to a new sheet. We can reset, which will just return our original table. And note that when we close this doc, the filter dialog here, it will always restore the original unfiltered table, and the same applies when you save the project. It will save the original table, otherwise you'll have overwritten it with your filtered one. So if you do want to retain the filtered results, you should copy them to the clipboard or copy them to a new sheet. I'm going to apply this filter again. This button here, subtract, allows us to subtract the filtered results from the original, which will overwrite the original table. So if I apply this here, it'll say overwrite. Remember that our original table had 20 rows. Now this new one has 16 rows because I've subtracted out those filtered results. So the other, I'll close these widgets here, these filters, and I'll try and do the same thing with the string filter. So the string filter is just typing out the request, the query, instead of using these widgets. So say I try the same thing where I say A greater than 6, press enter, or we can use the filter button, and we get a filtered result there. And this uses Python-like syntax. So if I say B less than 6, I will say less than 6.5, and press enter, we get 4 rows. So you can see, you can also type out the syntax using the filter using Python syntax, which some people may not be used to, but that's also available. So that's very simple filtering in Tablexplore. Now there is another way to do filtering that's directly using Python via the Python interpreter that you can access from the toolbar. And if I zoom in here just so we can see it a bit more clearly, we can use this. This brings up a terminal-like window that you can use to type Python commands, and you can access the underlying table elements. Table is the actual table object. If you know Python, this will make sense. If not, you don't have to watch this part. And then we can also access the actual data frame that stores the table itself using pandas, and that gives us a printout. We can just type df as a shortcut to that. It'll give us the same thing. So that prints out the original table in the GUI. Now say we want to do filtering. Well, all we have to do is, if you understand again, pandas syntax, we say want to select all rows where label is equal to orange, and that's the filtered version of the table. And now say I want to assign that to the actual, overwrite the actual table in the GUI itself. I have to assign that to, I'll actually go back to our previous command. By pressing the up and down arrow, we can recall these commands, and then say table.model.df is equal to the filtered table. And the last thing I then need to do is refresh the table itself, and that will update it inside the GUI. So now you see it's changed the actual table that we're looking at the top. At the moment you can't undo this, but a couple of things need to be fixed. But this is essentially, if you know Python, you might find this functionality useful.